So today we have Addis Alemayehou, and I have Bekure to co-moderate with me. Bekure is also very experienced tech professional.
Okay, so my name is Bekure. I'm currently the product director of a company called Habesha. We are a marketplace where we provide skilled talent to anyone that's interested to have. In other words, I think the easiest way to actually say it is we rent people. We rent people's skills. So that's exactly what we do. And on the second leg, what we're doing is we provide training on certain emerging technology kind of tech stacks to anyone who's interested in taking it. Through our platform, we try to connect you to anyone who is interested in having those skills and scaling it to whatever kind of product that you want to produce. So that's me in short. In other aspects, what I do is currently we're starting a startup ecosystem association in Ethiopia. We try to get involved with quite a lot of other startups. We try to help out what we know. We share information, we share knowledge, we share experience, and we also learn as much as we get as well.
So my name is Addis Alemayehou. I'm actually not a techie. I'm essentially an investor. So I've been back in Ethiopia about 20 years, mostly working in different sort of sectors. And the last probably 3 or 4 years, I've looked at the tech sector as a key growth opportunity, strictly as a business. Essentially see what works in the region, what works globally. I think for Ethiopia, the good thing is
Who's Addis Alemayehou?
Okay. So I mean, to give you a quick 2-minute version of myself, I was basically born in Addis, raised in Kenya. I moved to Kenya when I was about 8 or 9, and then moved to the US for high school. Lived in Canada for about 13 years. I've been in Ethiopia for just over 20 years now. Started off working as a consultant for USAID on business development support, exports to the US. And then while doing that, I started Afro FM, which is the first English FM station. Started 251 Communications, which is an advertising agency. Started Ghana TV, which was a TV station that basically dubbed foreign content in Amharic. And as of the last 3 years, like I said earlier, I'll be doing a lot of investments, not specifically just in tech alone, but in almost every sector that's available. And to me, I'm not a techie, like I said earlier. I'm an investor, and I invested in everything from a socks factory to, logistics company to, about to invest in a restaurant. For me, it's about the opportunity that Ethiopia provides. And I believe tech is obviously number one on the priority list. Like I said, we're starting everything last. And so I feel like Ethiopia offers a tremendous amount of opportunity on the tech side in terms of services, fintech, outsourcing, whatever form. I believe with 110 million people, the average age is 17 or 18 or 19, whichever study you're looking at. I still feel like there's a huge opportunity to not only create jobs and bring in wealth, but also transform the country in some way or form. So I feel like we're at the cusp of, where we need to be. It's a very exciting time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have around that. At least sharing my experience.
I just want to go back and maybe ask you, why did you decide to become an investor in any form, not just tech? First, let's say you started investing in real estate. Why did you think that was your career path?
No, I mean it's in your blood. I mean, I think I've always been a risk taker. So I mean, from a very young age, I've always felt like taking a risk. I've always felt that opportunities are always around us, and it's always the people that take the risks and those opportunities that move ahead. I never felt that a job will get you to where you are, and it's not for everybody. So for me, I grew up with a grandmother who was an entrepreneur, who risked it all, and I just watching her hustle every day. And for her, I remember when I first got my USA job in Ethiopia, and I went home and I said, "Maye Israga Nyosh." Her first remark
Mm-hmm.
was, you're going to sit around and wait for a month for somebody to give you money. So for me, it was that sort of expectations from her to go out and do it on my own rather than wait for somebody else to give me a paycheck at the end of the month. So I could say I was
That's
encouraged into
interesting.
it, but it was also in my
So
DNA.
you spent some years, 13 years in Canada, and most of all, it was real estate investment. Have you had any experience prior to like moving to Ethiopia and Kenya, investing in different sectors other than real estate?
Um, no, I mean, my story is very simple. I was a young immigrant. I didn't even know we were moving to Canada until probably 2 weeks before we moved in. And my dad was one of those people. Just you basically, you did what you were told. And I think I was 17, probably 18 when I moved to Canada. And my first job ever was in Mississauga. I think a hotel called Novotel, where I worked at room service. It was the first time I ever got a real job and got a paycheck at the end of the 2 weeks. And I did that for about 4 years. And to this day, when I still knock on the door, I still say room service because it's second nature to me. And then, but at that time, for a lot of you kids, Canada went through a major real estate crisis. So between 1989 and 1991, prices dropped by like 50%, 60%. And so all of a sudden you had opportunity to buy real estate for young, immigrants with, 5% down. And I did that. And at that time also, 1991 was when, Somalia was having issues, and Canada accepted a lot of Somali immigrants. And there was a flood of Somali immigrants coming into the region, especially into Ontario, into Mississauga, and those areas. So I would buy houses and rent rooms to Somali immigrants, Ethiopian immigrants, anybody that would rent a room and pay the mortgage. So that's essentially that's how I started. So I saw an opportunity where people needed a room, and I was I was in the spot at the right time at the right place to be able to do that. So for me, it's always about the opportunity and finding the opportunity and taking advantage.
What was your initial investment, and who actually provided that money to you when you started that investment?
So honestly, I mean, my first investment in real estate, and I've always had partners in whatever I do. So there was a chef from Sri Lanka. His name is Krishan, in the hotel that I worked in at the Novotel, and me and him were sitting down in the cafeteria talking about, he was complaining about his landlord, I was complaining about mine, and we realized, we both need to live somewhere. We both paying rent. Why don't we, join up and buy a property together? And that's how we started. So it's almost every business that I get into starts from a problem and finding a solution to that problem. And what we did was, rather than buying a 2-bedroom apartment, we bought a 4-bedroom townhouse, and we lived in each rooms, and we rented the other 2 rooms to supplement our income. It was very simple. And then once we started doing that, we realized, okay, we could get one more place and another place. So before we know it, we had 4 places that we were renting out to other immigrants like ourselves. It was very simple. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't you didn't need a Harvard MBA to figure out that people needed a place to stay, and if the banks were willing to lend you money to buy those places to rent it out, that's
actually very
it was a
point
given.
you raised, having some partners in your journey. Bekure, you want to say something?
No.
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
thought you finished, and I was going to go to another question. You finish up, and then I'm done. All right. So Addis, what's up? How you doing? It's been a while.
I'm good, man. How are you?
All right. So let's go to more of the investment aspects and the ecosystem in the country, and let's try to pick your brains on that. So, for example, I'd start with, what's your perspective with the startup ecosystem in the country? Yes, it's an fledgling economy, yes, but what's your overall general perspective about the startup ecosystem in general? I'm not specifically going tech or anything, but startup.
I look at Ethiopia from a holistic view. So when you talk about startups, we have a country that is 110, 115 million people. We have a very young population. We have a huge demand for almost every product or service you can mention, because we hardly produce anything or have the services to provide for this huge up and coming population. And the most exciting part about Ethiopia is it's a very young population. So I mean, if your average age is 18, these are kids that are tomorrow going to need a job, will buy a car, will get an apartment, will buy furniture, will get married, have kids, and consume probably for the next 50 to 60 years. So I mean, there's hardly a country on earth, then probably mostly in Africa, where you have a very young population, where the opportunities are there to provide for this opportunity in various forms, whether it's tech or whether it's furniture, whether it's socks, or whether it's logistics, whatever it is. For me, that's what excites me the most. uh, when I first moved to Ethiopia 20 years ago, it was a very, very desperate country. We just gotten over the war with Eritrea. The China influence hadn't really crept in. The government really didn't even have a word called diaspora. I remember I had to go get a residence visa every 3 months, like every foreigner. And I probably killed so many relatives saying so many, Laksal Labing, in order to get the immigration guy to extend my visa for another 3 months. I mean, we've come a long way. What's exciting for me today, and probably the last maybe 8 years or so, is you have a government that's now finally realizing that they can't get the economy growing, create the jobs with just government investment and infrastructure investment. We've extended our credit with almost the rest of the world as far as we can. And now it's the private sector's turn to come and play that role. So you have to look at it from that point of view. And that's what gets me excited, even with all the challenges.
Perfect. So that means we do have challenges and we do have an immense opportunity, like everybody thinks. But then to go to the next thing now, when a young individual gets up and starts a business, and since you have seen a lot, those who actually come for mentorship, one, those who come for investment and they're pitching, my question would be, what do you think most, if not all, the startups in Ethiopia lack? And now assume that I am your fairy. I don't know whether there is a fairy godfather, but let's assume that I am your fairy godfather. I gave you a magical wand and ask you to the three main things that startups should focus on in the country. What would they be? So what are the main things that they lack, and what are the main three things that they should focus on?
I think the one thing that a lot of startups that come to us lack, or that comes to me lack, is information. And they really, a lot of them don't do a real deep analysis of the opportunity or the challenges, right? So they come with the perception that this idea that they have, and they sat down with a couple of friends, is sort of the magic wand. So when you ask them about the competition, when you ask them about the policy challenges and the infrastructure challenges, they're not able to sort of answer those questions. So that's the biggest challenge. For me, the three key opportunities that I see is, given that what's happening in the infrastructure space and the fintech space at the moment, I think there's going to be a huge number of opportunities on the service side, because you have a very young population, like I said, and like everywhere else, young people are more tech savvy. And they want the services in their hand when they want it, right? So I think logistics is going to be a major opportunity. I think services within the logistics sector, delivering products and services to people's workplace, people's homes, people's kabale, people's souk, whatever it may be, getting products services to their hand is going to be a major opportunity, and making life overall easier. So I'll give you an example. Somebody did a study somewhere where it said almost 60% of people that are walking around Addis Ababa on a normal day are going to pay some sort of bill. Literally, they're going to pay the utility bill, the kabele bill, or handle some sort of minute sort of transaction. So I think with the uptake of Telebur and some of the other fintech that's starting to happen, you will see a lot of opportunities in that regard. I don't think people sort of, for me, what I tell a lot of young people coming to Addis, or even the ones that are there locally, is I tell them, take a month or two and write down every single complaint that you hear from others around you. It could be your friends, it could be your family, it could be, whoever. Just write down every single complaint that you hear. And I'll guarantee you at the end of the month, you'll have at least 40, 60 opportunities. Because at the end of the day, a business is basically a solution to a problem. That's the way I look at it. It's very, very simple. It's not that complicated. It's like you have a solution to somebody's problem and you charge them money to solve that problem. That's the way I look at it. And there's a ton of challenges in Ethiopia. That's the most beautiful thing about Ethiopia is you have challenges everywhere. And for me, that's an opportunity everywhere.
Cool. Actually, the challenges everywhere part is the more punching line. I don't know. Frankly speaking, no jokes intended.
Yeah, so በጣም ጥሩ ጥያቄ ነው።
Wanna have any
I just
questions?
wanted to listen. በጣም የሚገርም ፐርስፔክቲቭ ነው። ምናልባት የቴክ ኢንቨስትመንት ላይ ብናወራ ትንሽ ቴክ ስታርታፕ ሊሆን ይችላል፣ ሜቢ ላርጅ ስኬልም ኢንቨስት እየተደረገ ያሉትን ሊሆን ይችላል። Do you think we are bringing Ethiopia I talk down her in America, I guess. Do you think we are bringing Ethiopia to the world stage, or we are bringing the world to Ethiopia? Are we introducing new things in Ethiopia that is not out there, or are we bringing all like the services that we know in the West, working in the West and implementing them to fit Ethiopia's problem? Because that's most of the startups are doing right now, like the ride, all the ride share services and other bill services, all the logistic services, delivery services are doing the same thing that the West already have implemented for a couple of years now. So where are we? Like, are we bringing some innovative ideas out to the world, like Kenya did in mobile payment, or are we just trying to at least catch up?
For me, doesn't really matter is what I want to throw back at you. Because like I said, we're starting last, literally last. I mean, we are at the tailgate of tech anything in Ethiopia. I mean, for the last 10 years, I'll say somebody was, somebody commented we've been in a coma, and I actually 100% believe that. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with seeing what's worked somewhere else and bringing it home. We didn't have to invent the airplane to start Ethiopian Airlines. We just looked at what TWA did and started the same thing. I think for the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of copying of what's worked outside and bringing it home. And I don't see anything wrong with it, because it saves you time and it saves you energy and it saves you a lot of resource trying to come up with a whole new original idea that nobody's done around the world. For me, I mean, I grew up in Kenya, and I always say this all the time. I'm in Kenya. I mean, at least pre-COVID, I used to be there every 6 weeks, and my eyes and my ears are open all the time, because what's worked in Kenya would definitely work in Ethiopia, because we have a similar market. They just happen to be ahead of us in a lot of ways. So for me, we're Nairobi's an hour and a half from Addis, and population income, whatnot. Yes, theirs is higher and they're more tech savvy, but there's nothing in Kenya that's worked that's not going to work in Ethiopia. So, I mean, why try to reinvent the wheel? All you have to do is, see what they have and localize it to our local demand, and go around the challenges that we have. We have particular challenges that are Ethiopian, some of it infrastructure, some of it policy, a lot of it on finance, because it's you can't walk to a bank and get money for your idea. I mean, those are challenges across the board, all over Africa. But Lene, I mean, I would love to invest in an innovative idea that's made in Ethiopia that's never been done before. It could be a mobile game. It could be a new way to chat. It could be a new way to exchange information, whatever. If somebody comes up with that, I'm more than happy to invest in. But at the same time, if somebody comes to me with a solution that's already proven somewhere in Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya, and Uganda, I'll jump at that as well, because we face similar problems throughout the continent.
Yesterday we had a startup in Ethiopia room opened by Abel Asrat, and there were like a couple of Ethiopians discussing about the startups in Ethiopia and the ecosystem. And one of the question and the issue that was raised is Ethiopian startups are utilizing outsourcing to actually develop their services and applications and website and so on, so that they get a cheaper service, and also whatever shortcuts they can actually get. How do you think Ethiopia's use be taking advantage of this growing demand in take investment in startups, and having like missing out from these opportunities, because Indian ecosystem is strong. They have well-educated professionals working there, and they are cheaper, and they have already built some systems for them, and it's easy for them to send us a copy of that application. How do you think Ethiopia's use can survive this challenge?
I think competition is going to bring innovation. For us, I mean, honestly, Bakra can probably comment on this more than I can, because he's actually on the development side. He's actually on the ground working with these kids. For me, it's going to be a while before our kids are tech savvy, caught up with India, and the costs of our services and products will catch on to where the Indians are. The Indians have been doing it probably for the last 30-40 years. They're way ahead of us. We have to admit that. And it's going to take a while for us to get to where they are. And so, I look at the tech sector the same thing as manufacturing sector. I mean, I just invested in a socks factory, and we were hoping to get raw materials from our local factories, but they weren't able to deliver due to circumstances. So I hated to do it, but we had to go import raw materials from China. I would have loved to have the raw materials delivered in Ethiopia, but the factory still has to go. So, I mean, that's the way I look at it. I mean, if you're a startup and you need a product, out in the market, and you can't find somebody locally to produce it and do it at a cost and at a timeline and at the at the quality that you expect, you're forced to go out to India or wherever else to have it done. Until our kids, get to the point. And I think Bekure and his team at Gawea, and there's others as well that are working on this. Bekure, I mean, I would love for you to comment on that question, because I think you guys deal with it on a daily basis.
Okay, now, as always stated, it's human resource. We have 112 million people, out of which 70% is the youth. But numbers are not always enough. I mean, do we have the necessary skills? No, we don't. And if you really, really look at India, it's not by accident that the CEO of IBM or Google or Microsoft are Indians. It's by design. I mean, by design, not someone sitting down and trying to figure out what will happen in the next 40, 30, 50 years, but they actually planned, they looked at their mass population, and what they decided as a country was, this is the right time that we actually teach our people skills. We give them the right skills so that they can provide services to the rest of the world. And that's what I mean by design. And through time, India got to a place where it's providing services to the rest of the world. Now, the Indian economy is even getting stronger, and the standard of living is getting higher, and the prices are getting higher, which is why at this point in time, I believe, or everyone in Gawea and most of us here, I'm sure, believe that Africa is the next frontier. We do have, and according to ILO, by 2050, we're going to be having half of the world youth in Africa.
Interesting.
Half of the world youth will be in Africa, and this is not my number, this is ILO. So if we don't give them the right skills, they're going to be a problem for their own nation. If we provide them the right skills with the right plan in place, we can provide service, remote services from our from their own countries, from their own homes. You get my point? So yes, Ethiopia has the numbers, but not enough skills. So that is one of the things that Gaia is trying to do, which is we provide the right training on the right technological skills or the current demands, and we provide it to those who would like to hire it. Perfect. Now, if I can use that as a segue to go to my next question, Addis, I'm going to come to you, which is like, now, yes, a lot of things have been spoken about, policies, the environment, stifling startups, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, I personally believe that this is the situation. Until it changes, suck it up and let's go. So if that's the case, then this is the part that I really don't get. As an investor, how do you conduct valuation, especially in a country where there is no central marketplace? The central marketplace misses. So how do you conduct valuations? And how do startups even conduct valuations of their own? And what kind of strategies would you advise? And if I can slowly add into it, at what stage now? Feel free to say no to this question, but at what stage of a startup are you most comfortable investing in?
Okay, Abararko.
Addis.
Abararko. Abararko. Here. I think.
Yeah.
It's connected again.
No, he'll be back.
By the way, I think the Gabia topic would be, I think, one of the issues that I want to discuss with you, because that's a huge space for the next growth. Did you hear Bakure's question?
I'm back. Yeah, I heard it. So the question about valuation, at what stage are you comfortable in investing in, right?
Yep.
Okay. So valuation is always a sort of a critical issue, especially on the Ethiopian side, because and we faced this over and over again. One, when I invested on my own and/or with my friends to Addis Angels Group. It's always been the case where you have this unimaginable valuation assumption that these kids will come to us with, and it's always a negotiation. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, I 100% believe that every single birr that I'm investing in these startups, I'm willing to walk away from that money. It's sort of like anything in the world. I mean, it's a startup. It's it's a new sector. It's a new venture. You're investing in the person more than the idea, to be honest with you. And so for me, my valuation is based on how bad that investor or the entrepreneur and his team want this, how confident they are about their ability to deliver, how energetic they are and how desperate they are to get things moving, more than the idea. Because whatever idea you have, I guarantee you there's 10 other people with the same idea. There's nothing. I haven't had a single unique idea where I've gone, wow, nobody's come up to me with that. Every single idea that folks have come to me, somebody else has had, or some form of it to the table. So for me, on the valuation side, honestly, you're right. There's no single formula that works in the Ethiopian context. So far, we've invested based on negotiations in terms of, I'm risking all of the money, you're risking your time and energy. So you got to meet me halfway. There's no way I'm going to put, $1 million and take 10%. I mean, I have to have teeth in the game. Whether it's, you have the opportunity to buy back your shares based on deliverables and KPIs, and that's how usually that we worked in. And honestly, I have a team of investment advisors that negotiate that side for me. And so I'm not a good numbers guy. I'm just I'm an ideas guy. If I like the business, I'll send it to my team to give me an advice in terms of how much we should risk as a team and how much we should expect in terms of return. When the question in regards to at what stage, I like to be seed. I like to be the first guy to invest.
Smart move.
Mainly because I feel like when you're the first seed or second, when you're second seed, you're dealing with a lot more than the entrepreneur. You're dealing with somebody else who's already invested money, and they feel like they have a stake in the game as much as you. And the negotiations is not that much tougher when you have 2-3 other investors in the room. But when it's just you and the entrepreneur, and they know that you're the first one in the door, you're the one that's taking the risk, you're the one that's going to take them to the next level. I think it's a much better position to be in.
Okay.
Not to say that I
So-
haven't been second or third. I have, but
No, I got it. But as a follow-up, could we say, okay, what would you advise for the startup's target? Should it be exit, or should it be acquisition as an exit, or would you advise anything else as actually the target?
It depends on the opportunity. I mean, listen, one of my biggest regrets in life every morning I wake up is not investing in Ride. I have nightmares about that to this day, because Samrawit approached me like she approached everybody else way back in the day. And for me, Ride has got to the point where they can diversify into other industries. They could become a fintech, they could become a delivery company, they can do so many things. They could take that business in so many ways. Obviously, if somebody like Uber or Lyft came and acquired them, yes, it's a nice, decent exit. But I think Ride has enough leeway and enough room and enough time to actually become a major sort of delivery fintech slash transport company in Ethiopia. I think they have a couple of years left to actually scale up on that side. There's other investments where you're just doing it to build a market enough for you to flip it and share it and sell it and move out, because there's other players that are bigger than you, that are more experienced than you, that will either, if you don't sell to them, they'll wipe you out. So you find the best suitor and try to get yourself ready to be bought out. So it depends on the business. For me, if it makes practical sense and it doesn't damage the company, and it's a decent enough exit, sure, why not?
Yeah. Okay. So this would be my last question before opening it up to the audience, and maybe Tef might have his last questions as well. But my last question would be, in your perspective, which would be the current startups that you know of in Addis or in Ethiopia in general, that would be the next big thing?
Oh, it's hard to sell. I would say it would be the fintech guys, but then again, it's such a new sort of sector, and with the new operators coming in, they have bigger muscle, bigger money, bigger experience, and a broader sort of resource. So for the startups in that field, it's an opportunity, but it's also a challenge. I say that because I just invested in a fintech startup, so I'm like biting my nails like everybody else, but willing to put up the fight. I think logistics is a major opportunity, not only in Addis alone, but throughout the country, because you have to realize that 85% of our population lives outside the cities. We only have 15 or 16, or probably the highest 18% of the population that lives in towns. So I see huge opportunity in providing products and services to 85% of the population that's found outside the main cities and towns. So I don't think there's enough people looking at that. The third opportunity I see is on what last year has taught us, is that people can work from anywhere. And I wouldn't recommend this 2 years ago, but given that we have a major telecom operator about to deploy a major infrastructure in the country, you're going to have 40% of Ethio Telecom sold to a major operator. Again, there's going to be huge substantial investment in infrastructure. The one bottleneck that we've dealt with on the ground in Ethiopia is the challenge with infrastructure. I think when that's solved, it's going to be a tremendous opportunity in what you guys are doing with Gavea and offering services of whether it's software development or whatever it may be for the global sort of business community. I think that's a huge opportunity, and I'm seriously looking at that. Outside that, I think honestly, I mean, there's those three key things that I find very enticing and exciting, and also digital content, right? So I see a major opportunity in digital content, and I'm going to put this out there. And anybody that's working on digital content, please hit me up. Thank you, Tef, for giving me the opportunity to pitch.
Of course.
I see digital content as a major opportunity in the sense that, unlike the rest of the continent, so if you're in Kenya, and Kenyan youth speak English very well, so they consume English content from anywhere in the world. Francophone Africa, they speak French, so they consume French content from anywhere in the world. But kids and youth back home speak either Amarinya or Rominya, Tigrinya, whatever it may be, right? So they need local content that speaks to them in their own local language. And I don't think there's enough local digital content available for people to consume. So you have all of this infrastructure that's being built, mostly data, 5G, 4G, whatever it may be. Unless people are consuming video and content, locally, it's not going to get anywhere. So I think there's a huge, tremendous, untapped opportunity to provide digital, localized content for the Ethiopian population. I don't think there's a lot of companies that are looking at that. I think we've invested in one that is trying to do the same, sort of trying to become the Netflix of Ethiopia. But I see a huge opportunity in that regard. If you look at the amount of content on TikTok and Amharic, I think there's just a lot of opportunities in that regard. So whether it's entertainment, whether it's infotainment, whether it's education, whether it's health, whatever it may be, there's a huge, vast number of interests that people would need to consume. And I don't think we've touched the surface of that.
I want to just ask one more question, and I'm going to open up the stage to the audience. So the telecom is opening up, and there is, the consortium will join the market next year, and the market share for Ethio Telecom is now I think 40%, right? So is that going to give us a kind of hope for tech startups? Like you said, logistics is the next big thing that can actually transform the country. Do you think without having a sustainable network that would be successful, and having the power grid that have a power shortage every now and then is going to give us kind of sustainable data center qualities, like if the data centers don't have enough backup power before the power comes back, would you think that's going to be a recommended place to to do business, to do Bitcoin mining and such more investments in tech? How do you see the problem we have right now is a real problem? Do you think that's gonna go away like in 2 years, 5 years? Can you maybe give us a picture of that? If I think you spoke to that point yesterday or before on FANA and BBC as well. Maybe to give us some perspective.
For me, like Bekure said, you take what you have now and you run with it, and you make the best of what we have. There's companies that have survived doing various things on the ground, even with the infrastructure and the challenges we have. I believe the next couple of years, obviously, is going to bring a much better infrastructure to the country. We have, I think, 3 or 4 new data centers being built in and around Addis, and these are major multinational investments that are coming in, and they're going to bring the same level of service and expectations that they provide globally. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think we're going to have 3 or 4 telecom operators that will have access to international fiber and connections, and I believe the connections will be faster and cheaper in the next 18 months, because competition is all about that. Is about providing the consumer with a better service at a lower price, right? So I think the issue of infrastructure will be answered. For me, I've never waited for everything to be right in order to do something. I've always started with what we have. For me, for the audience, I would suggest look at the infrastructure that's currently available and look at the services that you could currently provide given that infrastructure and start. I mean, Ride didn't wait for the infrastructure to be right. Deliver Addis didn't, Ishi didn't, and some of the other companies that are out there, Gavea didn't. So I think even with the infrastructure, as challenges as it is with the power issues that we have, there's still companies that have done well and are growing at a tremendous stage. I think the future is bright for me. If you give me $1 million, I'll leverage it and invest 5 million of it right in Ethiopia. So that's where I am. But I have almost everything I have invested in the country. So I'm not.
Thank you, Addis.
Maybe to add on that one, yes, nobody's actually waiting for an infrastructure, and I agree with Addis on this one. But to give you some perspectives, for example, currently there are 6 data centers, international, that are actually coming in to build. The 7th one happens to be the national data center that the government is trying to do. All, I'd say, would be located at the ICT park, where the government has allocated about 200 hectares plot of land. Now, is the ICT park fully engaged, or does it have all the necessary infrastructures? No. For example, the 10 megawatt of power is currently being built or pulled in to the park, and it would be ready by the time the data centers would be up and running. Government is having a conversation with the new group, the telecom group that actually is coming in to provide the park with a redundant VSAT as a redundant data connector. So government is trying to do some stuff. Now, will the government be doing things at the pace that we want them to do? No. And I don't think this is not unique to Ethiopia. I don't think this is unique to Ethiopia. I think every government is slow when compared to a private sector. But are they doing whatever they have to do? Yes. And they have millions of other limitations, not only finance. The other thing is, private sector needs to figure out a way of how to do it. Now, is it a conducive environment to work in Ethiopia? No. But can you? Yes, you can. There were times where we lost ridiculous amount of money. Sometimes when the internet turns off, we used to fly people to Nairobi, for example. And this is not unique to us.
I did that all the time. Straight to the airport. I did it all the time.
Exactly. So, and I can assure you that there are a lot of companies that are even prepared or planned to go to Nairobi just in case there would be an internet blackout next week due to elections. Now, people do those kinds of things because they believe that the market is their business has an amazing potential because the market is ripe. It's not because it's conducive only. So we just have to work it out. Now, including myself, until recently, I've been always blaming the government as well. But I think there needs to be a cap at some point where we go like, okay, government is doing whatever it's doing at its pace, at its own capacity. But what the hell am I doing? You know, like, how can I augment certain things, and how can I wait it out? And Addis has given a good example over there, where Ride started with SMS. She did not wait for apps. She had actually a calling service first, a call center, and then went into SMS, and then went into a mobile application. I can see David in the audience. David has a game, and he had to do a lot of work around just to be able to collect payments in Ethiopia. and he probably can explain to you on a separate thing, but people are becoming creative in ways of how to work in Ethiopia. And there are a lot of other people in this audience. I can see Araya too. I mean, he didn't have an easy time running Makina.net for all these long. You get my point now? Imagine if he was there when Makina.net was out. Imagine what kind of service he would be giving today. Imagine Deliver Addis or Issue Express or various others. So what I'm trying to say is it a 100% conducive environment to work in Ethiopia? No. But does it have a potential? Ridiculous amount of potential.
All right. Thank you, Bekure. Let me bring Dawit and Mati because they were first.
Thank you, Tafiye. Salam Addis, Bekure and Nachu. Thank you for coming. I have, if you allow me, I have 2 questions. I'll make it short. My first question is for you guys regarding investing in startups. So I joined the conversation a little bit late, so I'm not sure if I missed it. Do you guys see a way or some kind of platform is being built for startups that foreigners can invest? I'm sorry, foreigners are let's say diasporas, because I think the last time Betty came here and we had a meeting in the Bay Area. You guys were mentioning about even how $2,000 up to $3,000 can make a big effort, can make a big change in smaller startups. And now, you guys see a way to allow the diaspora to invest in smaller startups? And then the second question is going to be for Addis as well as Bekure. What do you guys think about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in Africa? That is the field I'm working on, but I just want to hear your opinion. Yeah.
I was expecting that. Addis, you go first.
And as far as the question about diaspora investing, I mean, you can invest $50 if you want. You're not seen as a foreign investor. You're seen as an Ethiopian national with a foreign passport. So you're allowed to invest in startups in whatever way you want. There's no sector that's closed off to you. I hope that answers your question. And as far as the crypto, shoot, if anybody figures that stuff out, I mean, I'm ready. There's one question. We had dinner with, I had the pleasure of having dinner with Jack Dorsey when he was in Addis. And I only, everybody got to ask one question. And the first question I asked was, and the only one was, what are you putting your money in? And he said crypto. So I'm convinced.
For the platform that Mari asked, in regards to crypto, consider me one of the dumbest people on that. I try my best to read about it, but that's as far as I go. But in terms of the platform, currently one of the first tasks that the association is actually planning to do is come up with a platform where we list out all the startups that we actually can find with all full details, investors, the incubators, the hubs, the accelerators, everybody. So we'll consider it as another version of an ecosystem mapping where it's going to be detailed and it's going to be accessible for anybody to actually use it. One of the main things is, I don't know about you at this, but everybody calls and tries to research on ecosystem mapping almost every other month these days. And it's one of the most boring things to do. And we need to know, as an ecosystem, we need to know who is out there. And this answers to the point that Addis has raised earlier, which is lack of information. If you have a list of all the startups and what they're engaged in on a platform, as well as all the incubators and accelerators and whatever, the startups would actually have access to those people, and including investors as well. While Mati, you can log in and check out those people too. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, Bekure, thank you so much. Yeah, that was really helpful. And I'd love to help out in any way I can. Yeah, my company Santim is also something That is going to be like one of the things we're going to help out is allow like foreigner investors to invest in local companies in Africa. Not like specific to Ethiopia, but like generally. And now about crypto and Bitcoin demo, feel free to come to my clubhouse. I'm hosting like one event every week.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing me up. Well, great seeing you again, Bekure, Addis. I'm going to go straight to the question. So it was an interesting topic about valuation of startups that you had earlier. And one of, the ways that you can actually deal with that is by issuing, convertible notes and safes as, ECs in the rest of the world do, which, kind of defers the valuation of a company until a startup has actual users or revenue with which you can actually come up with a meaningful valuation. But as you know, this is kind of not possible in Ethiopia because convertible notes are not instruments that you can issue and be acknowledged by the Ethiopian government. So do you recommend startups to go ahead and have a holding company outside of Ethiopia, somewhere in the US, Mauritius and stuff like that, and issue convertible notes? Have you done that, like with the AAA network or other investment groups that you have, or is this not something that you've done? This is first question.
So, and as far as the question about the convertible investment opportunity, yes, I mean it's the first one we're doing with a company called SmilePay. We registered it here in Delaware. I'm actually going back to the US to sort of finalize that. So yes, we've had to go through that, but mainly for two reasons. One, to go around the valuation issue, but also in order for other foreign investors to also invest in the company at a later stage when and if we need it. So to get the company ready for that sort of investment, I highly suggest a foreign entity for the startup. So that's something that we're definitely looking into.
Thank you, Addis. Mishu?
Thank you, Taf, and thank you both for being here. So my question is for Addis, so like I know that you work in communication and advertisement as well. So my question is, a couple of weeks ago we were talking about how social responsiveness is not exercised in Ethiopia, especially in the big corporates. So is there anything your company is doing toward that, and are you open to accepting some suggestions on that regards? Thank you.
No, I mean, we probably spend 15% of the team's time and resource on social responsibility and providing sort of ad hoc advisory services. I mean, everybody gives what they can. And for us, our resource and our know-how is our marketing and our advertising sort of know-how, at least in terms of the Ethiopian market. So we provided that for a number of local startups, whether we invest in them or not, whether it's my personal time or that of my teams in terms of helping them with strategy around that. So that's the way to do it. But you're right. I mean, CSR is a fairly new initiative in Ethiopia, but given that we have more and more multinationals coming in and starting up shop, you will see a lot more of that. So I'm sure the Safaricom partnership that comes in will have its own CSR strategy. I know Heineken does. I know Coca-Cola, who we work with, has, and others as well. So it's something new. But the Ethiopian CSR is basically, the owner giving money to a school that he grew up in some village in, or the church, or putting kids through university. All of that. It's not documented as per se, and it's not sort of, organized in a manner that a regular commercial or corporate entity here in this side of the world would do it. But there's a lot of corporate social responsibility that happens that's not documented.
Thank you, Mishu, for the question.
Thank you.
Salam?
Thank you, Taf. Hi, Addis.
This is my cousin, so I mean, whatever question she has, it's personal. It's like nobody knows you like your own blood.
It's legit. I promise. You've actually shamed me, but I wanted to ask. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. For real. I knew you'd add so much input to this, so thank you for joining Clubhouse altogether. So I have two questions. One is, do you have any interest or focus on health tech? And number two is, are you concerned about international or global markets, multinational companies that are focused on logistics that want to join the Ethiopian market. Some of them already have, in fact, but even more. So when you invest, are you concerned about such things, or is there a gap in the market that you feel like will not be covered by those companies? Thanks.
So in terms of being interested in the pharma side, yes, definitely. I mean, for me, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm not a tech guy, I'm a businessman. So if the numbers are right and it's providing a service to society that society needs, and if it makes sense, I'm open to it. So yes, definitely. And in terms of the logistics side and being worried about foreign companies coming over to take over, the actual law in the Ethiopian investment law only allows 49% foreign ownership or 50% foreign ownership. So there's still a major opportunity if the timing is right. So for us, we're looking at it and investing in the logistics sector in the hope that a bigger player, once Ethiopia is sort of at that growth stage, will look at it and look at local companies that are active in that field, and hopefully get bought out. So that's the strategy. So I actually see a major opportunity in logistics, mainly because it's not fully 100% open to foreigners.
Thank you, Adisiye. Small notes. We'll definitely be booking you for other sessions. Look in that view. But yeah, more than happy. Thank you,
Thanks,
Bekure, as well.
You're welcome.
Dave, የመጨረሻውን ጥያቄ
Okay, all right. I guess I'll try to make this short. So this is one of the most important things that I've noticed about, like mostly investors in Ethiopia and Africa. And I've asked this question a couple of times. So it's about toxic cap tables, as I'm sure you know, where investors own a large majority of the startup at a very early stage. This is like as much as the founder, or even sometimes more than the founder. And I've seen this to be one of the big issues when you go ahead and try to raise more money, especially from investors outside of Ethiopia, like Silicon Valley-based investors. And what do you think is the issue with Ethiopian founders, that they actually go ahead and take a lot of big slice of the pie? And what percentage do you recommend not to create this type of a toxic cap table? Thank you.
So for me personally, I don't like to take majority ownership, because when you take majority ownership, that means the baby's yours and you're driving it. So all of a sudden you make the entrepreneur sort of on the flip side, you become the manager and he becomes sort of the entity that sits back, and you get most of the stress, and they're just driving. So for me, on a personal note, I never take majority ownership. I don't like to, I don't suggest it, and I don't want to, for that simple reason that if I take majority ownership, then that entity is literally my responsibility, and it's the last thing I want is that kind of responsibility. For me, I suggest as much as possible, friends and family, money, whatever that the entrepreneur can gather to get to the level where he's able to prove his concept and be able to negotiate it at a better sort of value, because you find a lot of kids that come with a great idea but haven't really run out, looked at some of the other options in order to get the business up and running, just to get at least to the concept stage. And there's various other avenues and resources that they could possibly use, both inside and outside Ethiopia, to sort of tap into that resource for them to be able to at least get to this first stage where they're in a better position to negotiate. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much. It does.
Dave is putting the country on a map. He's actually putting the continent on the map. So I suggest everybody pay attention to what this brother has to say.
Actually, he's not putting it on the map. He's actually cheesing it on a cartoon.
I think you should definitely give the room to more questions. But I'm looking forward to that session, Tafari.
ፋሲካ እባላለሁ። ቴንክ ዩ ድሉን ስለሰጠኸኝ ቴፍ ኤንድ ቴንክ ዩ አዲስና በኩር ስለነገራችሁን ስቶሪ። ማይ ኩዌስችን ኢዝ አዲስ ስለ ብዙ ቢዝነሶች ስለ ስታርታፖች ስታወራ ነበርና አይ ዶንት ኖ ሜቢ ሚስ አድርጌው ሊሆን ይችላል። ብዙ ስታርታፖች እኔ አካዳሚክ ኢንቫይሮንመንት ሰራ ነበር፣ አዲስ አበባ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ሰራ ነበርና አብዛኛው የተማሪዎች ፕሮጀክቶች ወደ ኢንኩቤሽን ሀብስ ይሄዱና ብዙ ሰስቴይን አያረጉም ወይንም የተማሪዎችም ባይሆኑ ትሩ አወር ላይፍ ያለፍንባቸው ስታርታፖች ብዙ ጊዜ አናያቸውም እንትን ብለው ወይንም ደግሞ እንዲህ ኮምፒቲሽን እንሰማቸዋለን ኦር የሆነ ነገር አሸነፉ ይባልና ከዛ በኋላ ግራውንድ ላይ ምንም ነገር አይኖርም እና I think one of the reasons ለዛ ብዬ የማስበው ብዙ there is a gap between the business and the academic environment ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ስናይ በጣም huge gap እና your companies እያረጉት ያለው to solve this ወይም ደግሞ to bridge this gap anything አለ ጥያቄ ግልጽ ነው
I think ጥያቄሽ ግልጽ ነው I mean I've heard of a lot of pitches at various times from students and others then it's very simple I mean if the business idea makes sense and like what I said መጀመሪያ ላይ ያልኩት ነገር ነው ለኔ I invest in the people it's the team behind the idea that matters most because they have to have the grit they have to have the passion they have to have they'll be willing to work 18-19 hours a day and they have to be able to take disappointments unfortunately the kids that we have these days shortcuts ብዙ የሚፈልጉ ልጆች አሉ I mean they want everything today ቶሎ ብለው ቪትስዋን መግዛት ነው የሚፈልጉት ምናምን አለ አይደለ I mean I've seen a lot of challenges honestly but I've invested in young kids that are straight out of college never worked for anybody and it's been a challenge it's been a back and forth but I treat them like kids and we argue we fight but they know that we both are after the same thing and it's worked I think ቅድም ያልሽው ነገር ነው what the business community needs and what the kids come up with in terms of idea የተለያየ ነው there's a huge gap ቅድም ያልኩት ነገር ነው there's a serious lack of information and data in terms of what people need, what the consumer is looking for, what the business community is looking for. እሱ ራሱ I think is a major opportunity. You know what I mean? In terms of figuring out what the challenges are in the various sectors and what the consumer is looking for, what the population is looking for, and as far as products and services. And now ያንን information ለpublic ወይ ለወጣቶቹ ኢንፎርም ማድረግ እሱ ራሱ እንደ opportunity ነው ማለት I think even the universities can take that on as a challenge to do research so that they can feed that into the business students or the IT students to solve solutions for those problems that society has. Because I remember a very small idea it's non-tech based good. የኛ society is changing in a major format. እኔ የዛሬ 20 ዓመት አዲስ አበባ ሙቭ ሳረግ እንጀራ ከውጪ መግዛት ነውር ነበር ማለት ሰራተኛ ውጪ ወጣ ተደብቃ ሻሻ ውስጥ ምናምን አርጋ ነበር እንጀራ ይዛ የምትመጣው እንግዳ ሲመጣ because ቤት ውስጥ እንጀራ ከሌለ ነውር ነበር አሁን በየሰፈሩ በየሱቁ እንጀራ ኖርማል ሆኗልና I think society is changing in the way it consumes in the way it wants its service and products and there needs to be a major research done on where we are as a society because አሁን የኮንዶሚኒየም population እየመጣ ነው people don't have that much time to for products and ራሳቸው ምግብ ለመስራት ራሳቸው የተወሰነ ሰርቪስ ጊዜ የለም ሰዓት የለም I mean they're transport an hour and a half there an hour and a half back by the time they're home it's መሽቷል so whether it's consuming media whether it's consuming ምግብ whatever it is they want to outsource as much as possible so there's a huge vast amount of opportunities again where are the opportunities what is going to cost to get those opportunities up and running I think the business students at the various universities need to study those and then feed that into the entrepreneurs and the IT students that are in the same universities or around the country I hope I answered your question
so do you guys work with like academic universities or like the universities or any research
if I'm a jump on that
I don't think there's enough research being done by the universities locally not to guys because on Addis University either it's not public that's another problem in Ethiopia there's a huge number of research and data that's out there that nobody knows about and or altasarra and now ይሄ የቢዝነስ ኮሚኒቲው እና የአካዳሚክ ኮሚኒቲው ቁጭ ብሎ መነጋገር ያለበት ነገር ነው ይሄ it's not something new it's manufacturing line strategy the same thing service line strategy the same thing ቢዝነሶች የሚፈልጉት ልጆችና ከዩኒቨርሲቲ ግራጁዌት የሚያደርጉት ሪሶርስ የተለያየ ሪሶርስ ነው። አሁን እኔ በማርኬቲንግ እና በአድቨርታይዚንግ ስራ ላይ ልጆቹ የሚመጡት like we have to retrain them እንደገና ከዜሮ ማለት ትችላለች because they you know ከተማ ውስጥ ያለውን የስራውን ቻሌንጅ እና የስራውን ፍላጎት ይዘው አይደለም የሚመጡት የዛሬ 40 ዓመት የተሰጣቸው ኩሪኩለም ተምረው ነው የሚመጡት እና those are the challenges.
Thank you FM.
Thank
Fasika. Oh, you want to answer, Bekure?
If I may add on that one, like one of the biggest problems that there is in the country is industry linkage. The industry has not linked with the educational institutions, so that's one of the biggest things that we miss. And sometimes I guess we have to admit, right? So our incubation firms, our hubs, our private sector, we're not doing anything about it as well, including our relevant educational institutions as well. So I think one of the things should be, for example, if there is a linkage between the advertising agencies and the industry in general, and the educational institutions that actually produces these students, there would be an amazing development, and the industry would not be forced with retraining. You get my point? So one of the things that the government has actually identified and is trying to figure out how to do it, especially on the ICT part, and at the same time at the university levels, is that I hope that gives you some sort of perspective.
Thank you, FM.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Tef, and thank you, panelists. You can safely ignore if you guys already talked about this, but could you guys talk about Telebur? I know Ethio Telecom just launched this service, and I read somewhere they are opening up their API to third-party developers. So can you talk about the impact of Telebur on new startups? Thanks.
This is like probably one of the most exciting things to happen to the industry and to the tech side, especially for all of those app developers that have been dying to have a convenient, resourceful, mobile money platform in addition to what they have. So whatever products or services on ride. I mean, at the end of the day, you really don't have a choice, in terms of payment. And I'm in Dubai now. I don't even carry my wallet. So Kenya is the same thing. And for the first time, like, we'll be able to do that. And the fact that the API is open for others to integrate is transformational. It's too early to say how transformational it will be, because I think adoption is going to take time. Lene, my biggest worry is that the public will adapt to it, and the service providers are not going to adapt to it as fast. So unless the service providers adapt to it and integrate their payment platform into the Telebur, it's not going to work, because there's a lot of businesses in Ethiopia that don't like government to know how much money they're making. And that's, for me, I don't know, Bekure, maybe you might have something else to say with this. I think I see that as the biggest challenge, because not a lot of souks and restaurants and cafes and whatnot want a transformative and transparent payment system integrated.
That's a solid point, by the way, what Addis just raised. But I guess the ecosystem will force it that way. If people are in the habit of using the Telebur to a point where they stop carrying cash, I don't think businesses would have a choice but to adhere to those goals. Yes, I also agree that Telebur is going to be a game changer for the whole ecosystem, and it will have an amazing impact so long as we really understand how to utilize it. For a fact, Ethio Telecom is willing to open up its API, but they're not going to be doing it anytime soon, at least in the next few weeks or months. They still need to acclimate themselves to mobile money, I guess. The other thing is, they also, since they are the biggest muscle compared to us, there is also the electronic receipt issue where businesses will not be able to accept any kind of payment through Teleber at this point in time, unless and otherwise they give you some sort of receipt right then and there. But to make it even seamless and to integrate it to your platforms, you need that e-receipt approved, which is in the process. We're expecting it to be done anytime soon. That will actually expedite most of the things. But the biggest problem, as stated by Addis, is adoption. Now, Ethio Telecom needs to be extremely creative, needs to work with literally anyone and everyone that within the ecosystem or within the country to help it scale it to a point where every mobile user, hopefully, uses Teleber. Now, Teleber should be providing services to the banked or unbanked, and so on and so forth. That's when the adoption comes in. If everybody starts using it, then they will start to want to pay every kind of service that they actually get through Teleber. They will stop using or carrying cash, and indirectly it will force businesses to only be collecting through, or it becomes convenient. That's the best word. It becomes convenient for everybody to transact through Teleber, which would fast track everybody else. And a kid somewhere sitting in a bedroom can set up a business, provide services remotely, and collect payment through Teleber, and he doesn't even have to see you, which is going to create another big amount of money. Government can track all transactions. Government can get good taxation. Nobody is going to be able to cheat. At least they will be minimizing it. And at the same time, the consumers are going to be having a convenient lifestyle, if I may say so.
በጣም ኢንተረስቲንግ ፖይንቶች ናቸው። Alex, thank you for the questions. Addis, I want to give you a chance to say your last statements about the session we have, and anything you want to share us about your offering, or anything you wanna tell us. You can take this chance.
I mean, Lani, thank you so much for the opportunity. Bekure, I mean, it's always a pleasure talking to you and with you. Thank you for everyone for showing an interest. Lani, honestly, I mean, there's no place on earth, and I'm not saying this because Ethiopia is long, I'm literally telling you, there's no place on earth at the moment that has the most potential opportunity in terms of tech like Ethiopia. No place. I mean, there's no place you can mention to me that has, that is so behind and that has so much to learn from the rest of the world, and that has a huge population, that has a young, huge population that offers the opportunity that Ethiopia does. So, Lani, if it's not now, it will be never. So, Aeroplan is about to take off. So, rather than sitting on the terminal watching it, I suggest you guys get on the plane. So, it's a very exciting time. I've never been more excited than I am, like I am right now. It's been 20 years for me waiting for this to happen, and it's finally happening. So, and then the fact that we have, thousands of young Ethiopians all over the world that are, tech-savvy professionals that have gained experience and resource and know-how, and to be a part of this journey it's exciting. So, Hundochu Marak Kachalu, there's no reason why we can't. Israelochu Marak Kachalu, there's no reason why we can't. It just takes, and I have more faith in this new generation of Ethiopians than I did the previous generation, which is my generation. So, I mean, I'm not trying to beg you, because we're still going to do what we're going to do. We'll still move on with what we've started. Then it will be a much better journey and a faster journey.
Thank you, Addis, for joining us, sharing your story and your insights. I really appreciate you on your contribution to the community. Thank you.